So we don't make the decisions for managing the country, but we influence those decisions. Now, the government needs 3 votes from the crossbench in the Senate to get legislation through. We're only 2. So if they can get one other, and they get we 2, they get their bills through, right? So we are sort of like a balance of power, but we haven't quite got the balance of power. If we had the balance of power in our own right, the government passed and what it didn't pass. Now, we don't see power as the way national power brokers and the Labor power brokers see power as the objective. The globalists. So they're puppets. What we see ourselves as serving the country, serving Australians. Pauline always says, what's in the national interest? What's in the best interest of the Australians? So we need to change our parliaments to get back to that. So a minor party, if we had 4 or 5 senators, then we could have the balance of power. So we wouldn't be able to pass legislation on our own. We'd only have 4 out of 76. 4 or 5 out of 76, but we would have the balance of power, so we could stop these bastards doing what they're doing, unless Labor and Liberal gang up, which we can't stop, because if they gang up, they swamp us in numbers. So what we've got to do is change that parliament. When I say we the people, the voters, have got to change that parliament to get it away from just being a dominant force between Labor and Liberal. Switzerland has, Switzerland has the best, the most responsible government in the world, because they've got very little central power in their capital. Their national government has very little power. Why? Because it's made up of so many different coalitions. No one can govern in their own right. No 2 parties can govern in their own right. So what it requires is a very strong consensus as to what's good for the country before anything gets passed. The real power in Switzerland is in the cantons, which is sort of like the states. And that's where they make decisions. That's the way our federation was set up. So the states making most of the decisions close to where the people are. The people of Queensland have different needs from the people of Tasmania. But what's happened, and the same was set up in America, a federation of sovereign independent states. And so in America, the globalists have slowly got more and more power out of the states and put it in the federal. Because when you have federal, there's no competition. The Democrats and the Republicans in America have both got globalists in them. Both got graduates from the World Economic Forum Global Young Leaders Program. We have 2 here. Both the Labor Party and the Liberal Party are patsies to the UN. So what we've got to do is over time, we've got to reduce the number of Liberal, Labor and Nationals. We've got to end the Greens. The Greens are the most destructive force in this country, bar none. They bring in the policies from the UN, then the Labor Party follows them to make sure they don't lose too many votes, then the Liberal Party follows them to make sure they don't lose votes. So what we've got to do is change that over time. But in the meantime, in the next election, if we can get the balance of power, then at least we can stop a lot of this bullshit. Now, the last federal election in the Senate, in Queensland, I came 4th out of 6 elected. In Victoria, we had the 8th position, but every other state we were the 7th highest vote, which means that we're the closest of the minor parties to getting enough to get 6 votes. And what we've seen is people leaving the Labor Party and the Liberal Party, particularly in the Senate, because they want the protection. People know what's going on. Then we've got the best chance of all the minor parties of getting to be more senators. So we've got the best chance of getting the balance of power. Now, what we're also doing is we're working with the United Australia Party. We're working with the Liberal Liberty and Democracy Party. We're working with all the minor parties, the Informed Medical Options Party. We're talking with them. We're supporting each other, because what we've got to do is what we recommend is voting One Nation One, CATAS 2, IMOP 3, UAP 4, whatever preference you want. Put them in wherever you want. But put all the minor parties first. And then if we don't get up, then the next minor party will get our preference. The next minor party, they're not my preference, but our individual preferences, because the individual voters control preferences. So you allocate your preferences to the minor parties, and then if you prefer Labor over Liberal, put Labor ahead of Liberal on the how to vote card, on your ballot paper. If you prefer the other way around, do the other way around. So I'm saying put One Nation One, the other minor parties 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then Liberal, Labor, then Greens dead last. That's the way we would recommend people to vote, because in that short term, we will get hopefully balance of power to stop these monkeys destroying this country. And then ultimately we'll get more of the minor parties in who actually work for Australia. So that's what I can say. The other thing I would say to people is keep going to independent media. Stop buying the legacy media. They're just propaganda. There's only one side in the papers, one side on TV in the Ukraine war. There's only one side in the climate, and there's no evidence for it. There's only one side in the COVID, and that's all pumping out fear. All of these things that keep us on edge and fearful. The third thing I would say is spread the word amongst. So stop the legacy media and listen to people like yourself, independent media that are open to the truth. The third thing is spread the word amongst your friends, your workmates, your family. Don't get into arguments. Just say you've got a different view. That's all people need sometimes. They think, oh, mum voted Liberal all her life and dad voted Labor all her life. But, oh, it's okay to vote UAP or LDP or One Nation. The fourth thing I would remind people of is that we are human beings. We are wonderfully caring. We've had 50, 60 years of bullshit from the United Nations, the Club of Rome, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, all the globalist institutions saying humans are evil, uncaring, greedy, rapacious, irresponsible. They don't give a damn. They want to screw the planet. No. If you look at humans, we might damage the environment through our ignorance, but once we're aware we're damaging the environment, we fix it and we stop those practices. Humans care because civilization can't exist without the environment protected. And the environment can't be protected without civilization, because if people didn't have civilization, they'd be shitting in the creeks. They'd be scratching around for their next food. They don't care about the environment. So what we have to recognize is the best thing for the planetary environment is a developed civilization, modern technologically based civilization. We've proven that. The number of trees on each of the main settled continents has increased enormously in the last 100 years. We've increased the number of trees. And so humans care about the environment. Humans are someone, we should be very, very proud of being human. We know that some humans want to control. We know that some humans, we've all got problems that we need to address, I'm sure. But above all, humans care. Mate, you wouldn't be here today if someone didn't care for you when you were this long. Agreed. Humans are the most vulnerable when they're infants, when they're babies, when they're newborn. And they're so vulnerable. We're so vulnerable for so many years. Most of the others, a bird pops out of the egg and starts flying within a couple of days. And a horse pops out of its mother, the mare, and within minutes is standing up, and then within hours is galloping and cantering. I mean, it's phenomenal. What are we? We're prone. We're vulnerable. So you would not be here if you hadn't had someone caring. Our species would not be here if we didn't have someone caring for us. And we are wonderful creatures who've got an ego that can sometimes derail us and detract from us. But we care. We work together with others. We don't like to see others hurt. We will look after our neighbours. And so just remember, forget what the government is telling you. Forget what the Greens are telling you, especially. Forget what the United Nations is telling you. We are not greedy, uncaring, rapacious. We're caring, wonderful, creative, social beings who've got some flaws, but who are willing to address those flaws. And so, above all, be very proud of being human, but spread the word that we need to change the composition of our parliaments, which means we need to change the way we vote and change the way we get our information, because we're being fed crap.
Agreed. That's probably a good place to wrap this up. Senator Roberts, I really appreciate your time. I value your willingness to speak up and to speak out. I think that it's commendable, and we need a lot more people like you in your position that can be a force for change. So I thank you once again for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
You're welcome, Adrian. Thank you for what you're doing. We need more independent voices out there. Thank you, mate. Keep going.
My pleasure. Bye for now.